Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into the weeds on something critical for IT managers, for experienced sysadmins, Windows 11 adoption in the enterprise. That October 14th, 2025 deadline for Windows 10 support, it's barreling down on us. Feels faster every day. So our mission here is to cut through the noise, look at the data, and pull out what you actually need to know. We'll cover the progress, sure, but also those sticky challenges that are still out there. Okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating here is that this really goes beyond just a tech upgrade, doesn't it? We're talking about serious strategic decisions, big economic factors. So we'll dig into those money pressures, the technical hurdles people are hitting, and importantly, some actual strategies. Because it's not just knowing what the numbers are, it's understanding the why behind them. That's key for good planning, especially now.
Right, the why is crucial. So let's look at the landscape right now. Windows 11 adoption. Globally, things look, well, interesting. Windows 11 is somewhere between, say, 43 and 52% market share. Windows 10 is still hanging in there, 44 to 53%. That's a big jump for Windows 11 from early 2024, though, when it was only around 26%.
Huge jump.
But in the enterprise specifically, the data shows about 50% of Windows endpoints have actually finished moving to Windows 11, halfway there. Which sounds good, but it also means half haven't moved. And we've got, what, less than 4 months now till that deadline?
Exactly. That 50% number is sort of a double-edged sword.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it? It shows, real momentum, a lot of work done, but wow, that other 50% represents a massive amount of work still left. And for those organizations, the clock is really, really loud right now. Decisions made this week, next week, they matter hugely.
They really do. And when you dig into those numbers, you see some big differences, regionally, for instance. Europe seems way at like 70% done with the transition. Impressive. But then you look at the Americas, lagging quite a bit, only 43% adoption. And the weird thing is, something like 87% of the devices here are apparently technically capable of running Windows 11. So it's not just the hardware. That's where the real story unfolds, I think, if we connect this to the bigger picture. It suggests the roadblocks aren't purely technical anymore. They're more organizational, strategic. Think about the really big companies, right? Over 10,000 devices. They're the slowest. Only 42% done.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because the sheer scale, the complexity of managing change across maybe dozens or hundreds of sites, testing everything, it's just monumental task. Right, the logistics alone must be intense.
Totally. And the Americas lagging despite having capable hardware. That might point to maybe a slower pace in prioritizing this, more deeply embedded legacy stuff, or just different approaches to IT modernization. Maybe Europe moved faster on cloud or evergreen IT strategies. So yeah, these numbers aren't just about tech specs. They're about inertia, resources, strategy, all mixed together.
That's a really important point, and it flows right into the money side of things. The economic pressures here are, well, they're significant, especially if you can't make that October 2025 deadline. Microsoft's got this extended security updates program, the ESU, and let's just say it's not cheap. The pricing seems designed to make you wince.
Oh, absolutely.
Year one, it's $61 per device.
Okay.
Year two, doubles, $122 per device. Year three, doubles again, $244 per device. Per year. So if you need all 3 years, you're shelling out $427 for each machine just to keep getting security patches.
Wow. And this raises an important question. Why make it so expensive? It's pretty clearly not meant as a comfortable long-term option, right? It's a massive nudge, maybe even a shove, towards upgrading. Microsoft is basically saying, look, staying on Windows 10 is going to cost you, and the cost goes up sharply the longer you wait. It forces that difficult conversation and invest now in the upgrade or pay these escalating fees indefinitely.
And that cost adds up incredibly fast. Well, let's take a hypothetical company, maybe 10,000 devices, not huge, not tiny. Year one ESU cost, $610,000, just like that. If they need all 3 years, that's $4.27 million gone. Just on keeping the old OS patched. It's staggering.
It really is. And that's just the ESU cost. We haven't even talked about hardware yet.
Right, because ESU doesn't solve the underlying compatibility issues for some machines.
Exactly. The data suggests about 13% of enterprise devices need a full hardware replacement. They just don't meet those baseline Windows 11 requirements, TPM 2.0, secure boot, the right CPU. So for that 13%, it's not an upgrade path, it's a buy new computers path.
And buying new computers isn't cheap either. Typically, you're looking at, over $1,000 per user. You add up the device cost, deployment time, maybe some training.
Easily. And that's a big capital hit. It forces some really tough budget choices, especially for that 13%. Do you spend the capital up front on new machines? Or do you pay the rising operational cost of ESU for the machines that can run Windows 11 but haven't been migrated yet? For managers, this means budget planning becomes absolutely critical. It's not just an IT issue, it's a major financial decision.
And let's not forget licensing. Even if your Microsoft 365 plan includes Windows 11 Enterprise, which helps, sometimes you need to upgrade those M365 tiers for other reasons, maybe security features, and that can add, another $110 to $280 per user per year. It all adds up.
Every bit counts at scale. So, okay, the money pressure is intense, but even with that, companies are still hitting walls. What are the big technical rocks in the road?
Yeah, let's talk tech hurdles. Definitely, top of the list seems to be TPM 2.0, that trusted platform module. Microsoft drew a pretty firm line in the sand with that security requirement. And a lot of older, even some not-so-old enterprise machines either don't have the chip or, maybe more often, it's just turned off in the BIOS.
Right, disabled by default sometimes.
Exactly. And turning it on across thousands of machines, that's not always easy. It might need someone physically touching the machine or specific remote tools, big logistical headache. Now, technically, can you bypass the TPM check? Yes. Should you? Microsoft strongly advises against it. They flat out say installing on incompatible hardware may result in compatibility issues, and the kicker, those machines won't receive updates. For any sysadmin, that's like a giant flashing red light. Unsupported, insecure.
Yeah.
You just can't run a business on that.
No way. That's a huge risk. And beyond TPM, what about applications? Microsoft talks about 99% compatibility, but what's the reality?
Yeah, that 99% sounds great in marketing material. But in the real world, enterprises are definitely finding issues in that last 1%. You've got old 16-bit, 32-bit apps that need special handling, compatibility modes. You've got critical line of business apps, maybe custom-built years ago, that just weren't designed for Windows 11. And then there's specialized software, industrial controls, things like that. They need months of testing.
Extensive validation cycles.
Exactly. It's not trivial. Some companies are basically re-architecting apps just to make them work smoothly. It can be a real-time sync.
Which brings us to the whole deployment process itself, just the sheer scale and managing the change.
Right. It's not like flipping a switch overnight for thousands of users.
Yeah.
That would be chaos. You need careful planning, phased rollouts. Look at Microsoft themselves. Migrating their own 190,000 employees took them 5 weeks, and they probably know the OS better than anyone.
Yeah, they have a bit of an inside track.
Right. Most companies we hear from say they need 6 to 12 months for the whole process. Planning, testing, pilot groups, then the broader deployment. It really stretches IT resources thin.
It absolutely does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these technical hurdles, TPM, app compatibility, deployment complexity, they all add up. Bypassing TPM, huge security risk, app problems, potential business disruption, complex deployment, significant project management overhead. It's a multifaceted challenge.
And these challenges play out differently depending on the industry too, don't they?
Oh, definitely. The nuances are really interesting. Take healthcare. Lowest adoption, only 41%. And nearly 1 in 5, 19% of their devices need replacing. Plus, they have high PA compliance, 247 operations. You can't just reboot systems whenever you want. Migration is tough.
Makes sense. What about finance?
Financial services, they're at 45%. Slightly better, but still lagging. Their big hurdle is regulation. Everything needs intense testing and validation before it goes live. They tend to be pretty conservative with tech changes anyway.
Okay. Who's doing well then?
Education, actually. They're leading the pack at 77% adoption, which is kind of surprising given budget constraints. That special ESU pricing, $1 per device for year 1, probably helps to cushion the blow a bit, but hardware costs are still a major factor for schools.
And tech companies.
Tech companies are high, 73%. Probably not a huge surprise. They tend to have newer hardware anyway. Plus, there's this push towards AI PCs, those machines with the special AI chips. That often means newer hardware, which means Windows 11 readiness.
That's interesting how the AI PC trend ties in.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how all these industry specifics, plus things like, trade issues, supply chain hiccups, the whole return to office thing, they all collide with IT budget cycles. It makes timing these big migration projects really tricky. You have operational constraints like in healthcare, regulatory hurdles in finance, budget limits in education, all happening while the broader economy throws curveballs. It complicates spending big money on IT.
And that return to office push you mentioned, we're seeing that reflected in PC sales, right? More desktops being bought.
Absolutely. The data shows enterprise desktop purchases jumped 22% year over year in early 2025. And desktop revenue hits 17% of total PC sales. That's a 2-year high. It strongly suggests companies are refreshing office hardware specifically as part of their Windows 11 strategy, replacing those older machines that maybe weren't compliant.
Okay, so it's clear this isn't just an IT project. It hits finance, operations, strategy, everything.
Precisely. It's a whole business issue now, especially with the deadlines so close.
So what does this all mean? For the managers, the sysadmins listening who are maybe still in the planning stages or partway through migration, what are the immediate action items?
Well, the sources we looked at are pretty clear on recommendations. First,
Yep.
compatibility assessments. Now, use the tools, PC Health Check, your Intune or SCCM data, whatever you have. Get a real inventory of what needs replacing, what needs
I
migrating.
know what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Second, phase deployment. Don't try a big bang. Pilot groups first. Technical users. Learn, fix, then expand.
Makes sense. Start small, iterate. Third, hardware refresh planning. Try to line up those necessary replacements with your normal refresh cycles if you possibly can. Make it strategic, not just reactive.
Good point. Combine the needs.
Fourth, app testing. Be rigorous, especially those critical business apps. Don't assume they'll work. Test, test, test.
The 1% problem.
Right. And finally, fifth, user training and change management. Don't forget the people. They need to know how to use the new OS effectively. Communication is key.
And knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied. Looking at all this, the takeaway really is stark. Windows 11 migration is a business imperative. It's not optional anymore, not really. Delaying it past October means guaranteed escalating costs through ESU. It means mounting security risks that could genuinely hurt the business, impact compliance. That window for planning carefully, it's closing fast. Procrastination now leads to predictable pain later.
That really sums it up. The urgency is undeniable. You have to weigh the upfront migration effort and cost against just paying more and more later, plus taking on more risk. Microsoft's calling 2025 the year of the Windows 11 PC refresh isn't just marketing hype, it seems. It's the reality on the ground. What stands out to you as we wrap up?
There's always more to learn, and maybe the final thought for listeners is to consider the hidden costs of inaction. It's not just the ESU fees. What's the cost of potential downtime if an old system fails or gets breached? What's the productivity hit from apps that run poorly? What's the reputational damage from a security incident on an unsupported OS? Or the long-term drag of being technologically behind your competitors? Thinking about those deeper impacts often makes the case for proactive migration even stronger. Investing now might save a lot more down the road.